Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. When the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is the 28th FOMC day. We got a big day ahead of us. Also, we got to digest all of these tech earnings. Asia trade is still being really choppy. And there's all sorts of other news stories we can talk about. We can talk about the Olympics thing and all that. But first, to the charts. Boosh. Okay, what am I doing here? What am I doing? Where is my chart? There we go. Okay, so yesterday, the E-mini took a little bit of a dive. Now, I should point out, I mean, it seemed like really bad, but it really wasn't. I don't know. It was kind of weird because obviously it wasn't as big as these days, right? But I did see a lot of people talking about it and seeming like, oh, this is like so bad. But I think the big thing was that Asia trade was pretty terrible because, you know, China is cracking down on their own companies. And then, you know, after it wasn't so bad, but then after we stopped trading, we started getting headlines about like the new mask mandate. And all that. Is the beatbox intro? No. But sometimes I accidentally didn't put the volume on. Yesterday I didn't have the volume on accident. Anyways, so yeah, I think that it was like the mask mandates were coming down. Also, like we did have tech earnings and they were a little bit mixed. Like Apple gave very poor guidance and they were down immediately after their earnings release in the aftermarket. So yeah, we got a mix. Now over here in the treasuries, rates are rising here a little bit. And they're looking like bearish this morning, at least so far. I mean, yesterday there was a pretty good bull push and now today they're getting bearish, but we gotta be careful here. Like the treasuries have been really, really flippy. You know, they haven't, there's a lot of mean reversion in treasuries and it's really been shown the last few weeks. They haven't been trending the way that they tend to when you get good news, right? Okay, oil still in a range. Gold and silver still in a range. Well, silver got pummeled yesterday. Oh, wait, down below 25. That sucks. Gold, though, like, look at that. It's like, what the heck? Gold is, it's just been in that range forever. Okay, copper. Copper going pretty okay, but, you know, within range here as well. And, you know, a lot of this is the dollar, which is also relatively flat. We're still in the 92 area. Remember when we were at, like, pushing 90? Yeah, okay. So, that's kind of where we're at today. So, because the big news event today is the FOMC statement, that is really our focus. We are going to get the goods trades balance and wholesale inventories here, or actually we are just getting them. Let me make sure I got my news clock turned on here now. I'm getting the Canadian numbers in here. Okay, goods trades balance for June was negative 91.2 versus negative 88.0 estimate. And wholesale inventories I haven't gotten yet. Retail inventories spot 3% versus a negative spot 5. Oh, no. I'm getting wholesale inventory spot 8. That's a different number. It's a different number. Okay, so market doesn't seem to be like reacting too strongly to this. Let's recenter things so we can judge better. Are the robots turned on yet? Not yet. I'm going to let it take one more trade here today. If we have trouble, then... Oh, by the way, when I was showing you guys the charts, we saw the charts, right? Yeah. If it doesn't break its losing streak today, then we're going to have to size it down. Okay, so because the big piece of news is the FOMC today, we're really going to be focused on the Treasury. I suppose I will try taking some trades, but I'm kind of yesterday was really effing stressful for me. Not because of the trading. I mean, the trading was tough too, and I kind of expected that I wouldn't necessarily do well. But then as soon as I get off, because the whole thing was I was watching the baby for the day because Everett was getting surgery. And first thing that happens, my wife leaves, he throws up on me. And he had been throwing up in the night too. So like he threw up a couple of times. He was sick all day. It was just like, it was awful. Was like the most awful day since that day when I lost $500 and then we went and got the ultrasound. That was an awful day. That was the worst day since then in a year for me. So coming in here today, I think I probably need to relax a little, but we might see some opportunities here. I'm kind of tempted to try and take actually, why not? Let's put one at 08. Okay. Because there does seem to be a vacuum here at 08. I would rather get 07.5 if I could, but presumably it should be really hard to get filled there. Does he have a sensitive tummy? No, I think he's sick. In fact, my wife was just coming down and saying that she thinks he might have a fever because he was like all sweaty and gross and stuff. So we'll see. Oh man, are they gonna push it against me? I don't know. Like it's right now it's luring, right? Like what I would expect to have happen at 07.5 is that they'll get below 1,000 contracts and a few, maybe 100 contracts will trade into it, but it won't be able to move and they'll eventually slip up. But we did see the 5-year. Okay, well, they filled me. So that is not what I expected to see, right? So we'll see. It looks like the 5-year is pushing down. So where it's coming from. Okay. Well, that's... Who are you talking about? Oh, are you talking about the guy that killed JFK Jr. or whatever? Oh, wait, what the heck? That's not right. Well, I took a little bit of a risk there trying to take it at 08, and I think it was right, but I think that my overall read about where we're going was wrong, and it does look like we're heading south. Look at that now that they've traded back into 07 and there's iceberging on it at the low. So that can often result in a reversal, but if it doesn't, we might be in for a trend day. Win knows who it is, huh? Oi. Yeah, we talked about that the other day. I had never heard of that whole thing. So that's for topics. Well, you know what we got to talk about the thing, like it's something that apparently is dangerous to talk about on YouTube. Well, we have to talk about that they're making the mask recommendation again. And the thing that stood out to me in particular was that they were recommending it happen in schools again. And I mean, that in particular was a subject that there was a lot of discussion on, and a lot of people saying that forcing the kids to wear masks in school was not in line with the science. You remember a lot of people saying that, right? I guess I'm not surprised. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think is interesting about it, though, is that, like, I really feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot, don't you think? Because it's like they got rid of the mandate. Now they're putting the mandate back in. In the statement that they made, they said, well, it's unvaccinated people that are catching the Delta variant. Like, I don't think that anybody believes that the recommendations that the CDC are making are really based on the science. It really feels to me like it's social engineering again, right? Like, you have to tell the vaccinated to wear the masks too, because otherwise nobody will wear masks. And that's exactly what I think happened when they got rid of the mask mandate. You know? Am I wrong? Personally, that's why I think they're doing it. But I'm not going to say I shouldn't say that's why, because I can't prove that. But I think that that's going to be the public perception of it, right? Like, I think that the public trust in these policies is just going, And now, and it's as it's relevant to the markets, the cynics are starting to bet that shutdowns are going to come back in the United States. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing people like we expect Q3 growth to be less, and you definitely saw that, like, when Apple said the supply constraints and everything are going to be a problem. By the way, good morning, Lucas. But now I'm seeing people actively bet that the shutdowns are going to come back. So I was like, what the heck?
Submitted.
Oh boy. Was that correct? It was. Interesting. I should probably move that. Okay. Yep, I will stream today for the FOMC. It's no fun if you don't say anything, Uzi. I mean, you guys tell me, do you think that the federal government will start recommending shutdowns again? I think that if Joe Biden comes out and he says And, I think you would do it the same way Donald Trump did. You'd say, under these circumstances, if you're hitting these metrics or whatever, then you should shut down. Yada, 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 right? I think that if Joe Biden does that, it will be a huge mistake. I think that his support will just collapse and it'll be a disaster. Like I'm seeing some people suggest. Hold on. We have 15 employees, only one is vaccinated. She's the only one with COVID right now? Really?
Lock.
Do you think that it's that she has the Delta variant? I don't know, man. The thing that's crazy about that is that they were saying that the vaccine has like a 90% efficacy or something like that. Like that 10% is still a lot. There's still a lot of infections. You will not be infected if you have been vaccinated with the right vaccine twice. So that's another thing. She had 2 shots, yeah? That 95% efficacy is I don't have any reason to doubt it. Even if the efficacy was 95%, that's still a lot of people that will catch it. And to the point, when you have a vaccine, doesn't necessarily mean that you don't catch it. I mean, like, it will be in your system. You just don't get an infection from it, right? What evidence do you have to assume that the COVID vaccine is more effective than the flu vaccine? The only evidence that we have is the clinical data from the trials. It wasn't 95%, was it? The trials didn't say 95%. I thought it was more like 90, but even when we list out that metric, I think that when we say 90% efficacy, I don't think that necessarily means what we think it does. Like my understanding of a 90% efficacy is probably very different from what the immunologists that worked on the vaccines view of 90% is. There's another thing, Izzy. I learned this the other day. Like it says he's not getting vaccinated for now. Okay. So apparently there's like different levels of viruses. And a flu is like a step above a COVID virus. And it has to do with like how it replicates. There's like another step with influenza that basically makes it mutate faster. And so it's harder to create a vaccine for like a flu because it mutates so much more quickly than a coronavirus. If the flu is an average of 40% effective, given all the time we've been using it and accumulating data, what evidence is there that a vaccine we cooked 5 minutes ago is more effective by more than data? Yeah, so 1, because it's a flu. 2, because there's a lot more variants of flu out there than there are variants of the COVID-19. I think you could probably say that if COVID-19 continues to mutate for X years, like 5 years, and then we come back, then probably the vaccine will become less effective, and maybe it will get to 40% effective. The flu is a respiratory. No, there's a difference. Let's see if I can find the keyword that we need to research. Flu. I'm not saying the vaccines won't be effective. I'm saying on a long enough time horizon, 95% effective will normalize to flu vaccine efficacy. Probably, yeah. Well, let's say, like, the whole thing is I think that there's been a push. The people that are like COVID zero, what they really want is they want everybody to get vaccinated against it and keep everything shut down in the meantime so that COVID-19 is eradicated from the planet. I think is what they want. And then you don't have to worry about that, right? But you're right that if it continues to mutate for 5 years, then the vaccine will become less effective, and that you will probably need booster shots of some sort that help you protect against different variants. And it'll become like some sort of a yearly thing where they test against whatever strains are becoming more common and try and protect against that. You want to need boosters, you'll need annual shots. Yeah, well, isn't that the same thing? I mean, it's kind of the same thing, but I guess you're right that we call it something different. Well, COVID zero will be the worst mistake humanity. So this goes back to the thing. The question was, do you think that Biden will recommend shutdowns? Because everywhere else they're doing it. Like, if you're Joe Biden, you've got to be sitting there thinking, well, Australia is doing it. Why aren't I doing it? I'm a progressive politician. Isn't that what all of the progressive politician leaders are doing, is shutting things down? And when he was talking about it yesterday, he was kind of warning. He was like, if you guys don't get vaccinated, we're going to have to shut things down again. He was saying it. Depends. Will the Fed back the lockdown? Can the Fed back the lockdown? I don't know, Lucas. It's just like, here's the thing. If we go into a full lockdown like we did in spring of 2020, that my head explodes. Because when we went into this, I was like, we have a lot of debt, and there's a lot of remaining problems with the financial system. And if some sort of natural disaster came along, I'm not sure how we would deal with it. And how do we deal with the long-term problem of the national debt? Like, what the heck? And so then what happened? They came in, and all of these companies were going to go out of business. I mean, it was going to be a lot worse than it was, right? And the Fed backstopped it all. And now there's all this debt sitting out there. Okay. So now we're in recovery, and we go right back into it. Like, what happens? You almost kind of have to wonder at that point, can the Fed backstop it? Like, there's going to be carnage. One way, if it's as full of a lockdown as we had in December or in March of 2020, I'm not sure if they can is even under their consideration at this point. It's all a matter of keeping the party going as long as until disaster unfolds. I read speculation that Biden's going to go hard on us here in Florida to make the case for more lockdowns. I think Florida really supports DeSantis, yeah. But like, here's the thing. Well, like, Joe Biden has enjoyed relatively good popularity, hasn't he? Really has. It's really been like unusual how good is everybody's saying like the polls they can't be right. The polls are rigged and they're not doing the party affiliations right because there's like no way that it's that good. It has been getting worse lately. If he goes full on lockdown again, I think his support collapses. I really do. So the theory that I'm seeing people come out here with is Democrats aren't doing very well, and so that's why they want shutdowns again. They want to shut things down and get everybody scared, and that will help them for the midterms or something like that, right? Well, so first of all, it's like too early to be doing something that will really truly make a difference on the midterms. Okay, so that's the first thing. So it's still not until next year, right? But I say that if they shut down, it will be a really big problem for the Democrat Party. Because everybody is going to be coming around and saying, we shut down, we did all of this stuff, and for why? And at that point, whether it's scientific or not, I think you have a very difficult time convincing people that what you're doing is actually necessary. Am I wrong? And I think that municipalities will fight against it this time. Like when it was Trump, everywhere was like, okay, well, let's just go. And this, the states that didn't really want to do it, they did it, and they just their shutdowns were like the shortest that they could do, right? Well, it'll be different, right? They're like, Florida will not shut down. DeSantis will say, go to hell. Yeah, the media has been BSing about DeSantis. His approach is more freedom-oriented, but he and all our localities have been extremely supportive of getting... Yes, he has been supportive of getting the shot. It's pretty darn tough being a business owner when politicians change up the rules and regulations every 4 years. I'm glad you're doing well. Yeah. Am I wrong? I think that it'll be very bad for the Democrat Party if they do another shutdown. Like a federally mandated or recommended shutdown. If they try and go the mandated route, like governors say we're not going to shut down, and they try and force the governors to do it, then it's going to be like apoplectic, right? Yeah, at the end of the day, the problem that the communists have is that they aren't forcing us. I really agree with you on that one, Uzi. To be frank with you, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, listen, we're not talking about whether vaccines are effective, or I'm being very careful here to not contradict the science and to try and focus on the the political and market implications of this. I think that you're absolutely right that the thing that many of the really far left people don't like is just the fact that some people aren't taking the vaccine, and that you can do that. They want it to be forced. That in the end, it comes down to they think there are certain, and it goes deep, right? It goes deep. So remember, there's a lot of this stuff, like when I think about liberals, and like in Utah, let's say when I think about people that are liberal in Utah in particular, okay, because it is a very Republican area, right? And how do they come to their conclusions and things like that, right? And there's this overwhelming sense from them that, hey, you guys wouldn't all be Mormons if you weren't taught it as a kid. You wouldn't all be Republicans if you weren't taught it as a kid. That's their whole freaking thing, is they're like, we're the progress, and it's just these beliefs that you were taught as a kid that's holding us back. That's their opinion on things, right? And so when there are some people that come out and they were like, you know, in the past where it's like, your kids, they wouldn't allow their kids to get the vaccine, right? That really upset liberals. And I would always see these stories on Reddit and stuff where it's like, my parents didn't want me to get vaccinated and I went and did it. This was before COVID, you know, for they got all of their vaccinations and stuff because, hey, you know, like it does matter because those vaccines that you get immunized against as a kid are like things that will kill you. Like they'll just straight up kill you. Okay. And, they're triggered about it. So then this COVID-19 thing comes along and there's a bunch of people not getting vaccinated about it. It triggers them because in the end, they think that the thing that would be best for society is that all of these backwoods hicks were forced to be vaccinated so that we can have progress in this. That's what they think. And that's why they're mad about it. 100%. I think. If you're a liberal person and you don't agree with that take, you might not like the way that I'm presented, but I would hope that I presented that away in which you would be like, yeah, I do think that they should all get vaccinated. My contention with them is that the vaccine will not result in COVID-0. That is never going to happen. I don't want to say that it's not possible, but I think you're right that it's not going to happen. I think it is an unrealistic goal. The percentage of the population vaccinated goal that the administration put out was unrealistic. But like, and here was the point that I was trying to make earlier, is why didn't more people get vaccinated? Is it just because these backwoods hicks just don't believe in vaccinations and so they're not going to go and get it? I don't think that that's it. I think that people are skeptical about the vaccine specifically because of things that the CDC and the Biden administration have done that have undermined people's faith in this whole process. The vaccine, shutdowns, what the CDC says, masks, I think are a really huge part of it too. I just don't think that people just don't trust it anymore because of things that they did. And coming back and saying, well, now the vaccinated people need to wear masks. I can't sort out how that's scientific. They're saying, well, it's because of the Delta variant, but then they say that the unvaccinated are the ones that are catching the Delta variant, but then like, one, how do you test for the Delta variant? And two, they're not testing vaccinated people for it anyways, so there's no way that you could even tell if somebody that was vaccinated had it. It's just like, come on. Nobody trusts it. I don't see how anybody could. Or rather, I can't see how anybody could not question it. I certainly question it. I'm not going to make a conclusion on it because I'm not a scientist on that matter, but people got to be questioning it. There you go. See, Ace is saying, if you want to live around other people, you need to be vaccinated. Feel free not to get vaccinated, but you don't get to live in a society. He thinks that everybody should be forced, that you should have to be vaccinated if you want to participate in society. That's fascist bullshit. Do you realize, Ace, how radical what you just said is? That's a pretty radical statement. Same thing with being a murderer. Oh, man. This is really taking it far, Ace. Shots fired. Sorry, the news squawk is saying a bunch of stuff. Is that really how you feel, or are you playing it up a little bit there for us? But who's the murderer going to murder then? Oh, jeez. Man. I'm not gonna try and argue against it today. I just want to see, like, how serious are you, and do you realize how radical of a position that is? Vaccines save lives? Okay, but there's lots of things that save lives, Ace. There's lots of things that we could be doing as a society that would save lives, but we don't do. Okay? The government monitoring every communication that you have could save lives. The government coming in and arresting you because you have a particular opinion that you don't like, they could argue saves lives. Okay? I think you have to have a little bit more thorough of an argument than that to justify a rule than just it saves lives, right? Oh, I don't even understand what you're saying there. When moral absolutism and his formulation of the deontological theory of the categorical imperative was essentially absolutist in nature. Yeah, but no one's telling me I can't live in society for not wearing my seatbelt. Well, you will get ticketed. Okay, so Lucas makes a good point. None of those things are invading your body. It's a good point. If I get caught. Oh, man. So I'm watching here. I think that my robot did the right thing, but it's not working out for it. Oh, no. You don't get to play that argument both sides. You either have bodily autonomy or you don't. Okay? I would, if you're gonna take one side of the argument, then you have to explain how the side of the argument that you want to take fits into that, right? So if you believe that we have complete bodily autonomy, then you either have to explain how taking vaccines, well, not either, but you have to explain how taking a vaccine is not a violation of your bodily autonomy. Do you see, this is an argument I see all the time. It drives me crazy, and it happens so much on Facebook too. Pointing out a contradiction doesn't validate your argument, right? If anything, it shows that there's something about your ideology that you haven't sorted out yet. Oh, okay. Now you're taking it even. You're saying that we do have bodily autonomy, and we decide when it's worth it to take your bodily autonomy away? I don't think so. Or at least that is certainly not in line with how the Supreme Court interpreted the abortion argument, right? Because they were saying that it was like a natural human right, listed out in the Constitution. Like, if it is a human right listed out in the Constitution, then it doesn't matter if the government says we think it's in everybody's best interest that we get rid of your bodily autonomy. I could come in and I could say we think that it's in society's best interest that you lose your bodily autonomy in the case of abortion. How do you fight against that? I doubt your argument is I'm not sure the court said that, but I could be wrong. Well, so here's how I would present the argument, or here's, because when we say there's a contradiction, okay, here's how I say there's not a contradiction. You have a right to bodily autonomy. It is absolute and it is constitutionally protected. This does not apply in the case of abortion because you have made the choice to have a child. And if you're still holding the child after like 12, 15 weeks or whatever, certainly after 6 months, okay, you have made that choice, and now you are violating somebody else's bodily autonomy. And that's why it doesn't apply in that case. Okay? That's how I am philosophically consistent, right? Logically consistent. It's easy to make vaccine more effective. The problem then that there was a lot of silver paper hat that does not take the vaccine, therefore it will probably take a long time, unfortunately. No, I didn't say that. So you are okay with withdrawing bodily autonomy from a group of people? I'm saying that your right to bodily autonomy doesn't give you the right to murder somebody else. Don't give me that bullshit, Ace. Come on. Wait. So, wait. What do you think this is? So step back for a second. Hey, just stick with me for a second, okay? Here we are. We're on my stream. Okay. Do you really think that you can use that kind of an argument and that kind of a debate tactic in this kind of situation and be taken seriously? That you're going to go and use a gotcha question and get away with it? Get the fuck out. Okay, so if your use of bodily autonomy will result in the death of another human, you lose it. No. I wouldn't put it like that. You have made a decision already. And because of that decision, you have given up. I guess in some extent you have given up some sort of a sure you can throw like a tantrum and kick me out. I'm just like I don't see how you can come in and make that kind of argument and think that it would be effective or that anybody would take you seriously is what I'm trying to say to you. Like you're trying to use bad faith gotcha tactics in a situation where you're at a disadvantage because you're just on text and you're using it against somebody that knows how those kinds of tricks work and knows how to combat them, right? And I'm just telling you, like, if that's your debate strategy, it's a really bad debate strategy in this situation. Your wake sauce argument. And now I think I've got him. I think I have him triggered. I think I have him genuinely upset about it. So it's like this, okay? Do you have the autonomy if you are renting out a house to determine who you rent to some extent? Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. But once you've made a rental agreement, you can't just kick them out. And there are all of these laws and everything about when you can kick somebody out and when you can't. And it's the same thing with abortion, okay? If you've had a baby living in you for 6 months, you can't just decide all of a sudden that you don't want the baby anymore. Because you've already made a decision, and the decision that you've made, which is to not abort the baby before the 6 weeks, then you, at that point, you have obligations. So he doesn't come back with an argument. He just says it's a weak argument, right? So the thing is I didn't just say that your argument was bad. I explained like why it was bad, right? You're trying to set up a false dichotomy here to force somebody to make a statement that they don't want, when obviously their opinion on it is much more nuanced and complicated than that. Consent to sex isn't consent to pregnancy? Yes, but if you've had sex, well, so first of all, I disagree with that. To be honest with you, I do think that consenting to sex is consenting to pregnancy. If you have sex, you accept the risk that you could get pregnant. Like, it's just like, I can't come in here and take a trade on the S&P 500 and then complain when I lose money. Like, I understand that from trading that one of the risks is that I might lose money. And you have to understand, and it's not the government that says this is the way that life works, right? Okay. The universe set this law. If you have sex, there is a chance that you get pregnant. So yes, if you have sex, you have to understand that there is a risk that you get pregnant. And so consenting to sex to some extent does consent to getting pregnant. But in our society, we've given you a second out, right? There's like, until the baby has a heartbeat, you can choose to change that, right? So you can go and get the day after pill. You can go, and as soon as you find out you're pregnant, you can, or that you've missed your cycle, you go and see you're pregnant and you can abort it right then and there. Okay. But when you've had it for 6 months, I'm sorry, you consented to being pregnant and you're stuck with it now. That's my opinion. But okay. So you say you're okay with bodily autonomy up to a point. Yeah. But that's the thing, is what I'm saying here is the reason that you have lost the ability, if we're going to say that that is a violation of bodily autonomy, it's because of decisions that you've made, right? That's not what you're advocating. You're advocating that the government can just come in and say, you don't have bodily autonomy over this, no matter what you've done. You have to get this vaccine. You have to get this procedure. How do you come in and say, the government wants to implant a chip in me? Everybody needs to have this tracking chip. It will be good. It will save lives. How do you say that that's illegal? If that's your argument, you know what I mean? Well, there you go. It's a matter of responsibility rather than consent. The proposition is, I think that's a really great way of putting it, Lucas. You need to tease out why you think sex is consent to pregnancy, Seth, that would expose your bias. Because if you have sex, there is a risk that you will get pregnant. Is that not true? If you have unprotected sex, there's a chance that you can get pregnant. Everybody that has sex knows this. I would hope that everybody that has sex knows this. Come on. Like you're trying to say that that just the natural laws of life shouldn't apply to you. Or again, my allegory or my comparison is, if I take a trade, there's a chance that I lose. I can't come in and say, I consented to taking a trade, but I didn't consent to taking a loss on the trade, right? I understand that a consequence of entering into a trade is the possibility that I could lose money. Just like when somebody has unprotected sex, they are doing an action that has a possibility of resulting in pregnancy. So whether you consent to it or not is kind of irrelevant. It's going to happen. There's a chance that it's going to happen. He's just mad because he wants to turn it into a religious argument. I'm not that he's mad, but I shouldn't say he's just mad, but he's saying that because he wants to turn it into a religious argument. But you don't even have to take it that far. Winston's mom says, what about the difference when life begins? Some people think or feel that life begins at conception, while others think or feel life begins at the time of birth. Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing, right? Yeah, because here's the thing. I do believe that life begins at conception, but I'm also willing to come in and say that for the purposes of society, we can say that it starts somewhere else. But I also think that it's absolutely ridiculous to say that life begins when you come through the birth canal. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Okay. Asher was what there's like, especially for the last 3 months of the pregnancy, that is like a living thing with the personality and everything about the baby is already there before they come out. And that you can have an abortion in those last 3 months is just absolutely crazy to me. Like, I can understand you need to have the baby early, and so you have the baby and then you do all of the medical procedures to try and save their lives or whatever, because there might be some sort of a birth complication. But to just straight up abort the baby is horrific. And I don't think that there's very many Americans that would disagree with that. And it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that we don't ban late-term abortions without, of course there can always be like nuance around it with exceptions or whatever, but like, seriously. I just don't want to take it to religion. He's going to use the absolute minority of pregnancy complications to justify the necessity of abortion. And I'm going to use the absolute minority of vaccine adverse side effects to justify not mandating vaccines. That's an interesting, you're falling into the same trap though, right, Uzi? Because pointing out a contradiction doesn't necessarily prove you're right, but we can go through and we can explain that, right? If we say, no, I'm not making that argument, but he's saying nobody wants dead babies. I'm just like this is the thing is there's a lot of arguments that are made in the there's the religion side of it. Like let's be honest, a lot of the argument comes from religion. Like, some people believe in abortion because when they were a kid and their family was religious, and religion says you don't want to have abortion, and so they wanted to come in and say the church is wrong about a thing, but they also don't want to come in and say, oh, you should kill babies or anything like that. But I'm trying to approach it more from like a consistent philosophical view in line with what is already established in the Constitution about what should be, what kind of limitations you can put on things. So like, I don't think that I can come in and say life begins at conception, because even though I might believe that from my religious views, how do you like justify where life starts and where it doesn't? There's not some magical thing in the universe that determines the point at which life actually begins, and we just have to understand where it is or something. I don't think it works like that. Clearly, the reality of life is much more complicated than that. But there is a point at which we can definitely say that life has begun. We would say life probably began before this point, but we know that by this point, for sure, life has begun. That's why I say, like, if you are 6 months pregnant, life has begun. There is a living entity in there that is separate from you and has its own rights by 6 months. And it has those rights and everything. It should have those rights and everything before 6 months. But I'm sure that by at least 6 months, they definitely have it. Right? And we could probably point to earlier places, right? Like, they're saying, like, if there's a heartbeat, for instance, is one of the places that a lot of states have been trying to put it at. Maybe there's a little bit of question about, like, there could be an extreme case where you just barely found out that you were pregnant and there's a heartbeat. So how about we say 3 months? By 3 months, you've definitely had that time to know that you're pregnant. Right? Abortions after 3 months shouldn't happen unless there's like a medical necessity. And then after 6 months, it just shouldn't happen. Like, you can have an early birth, but you can't, like, abort. Yeah, good point, Strader. But we are getting a little bit off of the subject, which is, can you force vaccines? I don't think you can. Because we're agreeing, like, we've made the agreement that there's bodily autonomy, that is a constitutional right, and I have 100% confidence that the Supreme Court would rule as such that you have bodily autonomy. Okay? I have 100% confidence that if the government tried to mandate sticking a microchip in everybody, that the Supreme Court would strike it down. Right? 100% confidence in that particular scenario. Right? So, can you make it lawful to force a vaccine? Well, I'm saying that with abortion, the situation there is that there's another person that also has rights involved, right? But that's not the case with vaccines necessarily, right? You're saying that it could harm other people. Yes, but there are many, many things out there that can potentially harm other people, and you still do. Right? So I don't think that is an argument that would pass muster at the Supreme Court, right? And that's really the way that we should look at it if we're talking about, can you mandate a vaccine? I'm pretty sure that if Joe Biden made a presidential order that says all Americans need to get vaccinated, I guess it wouldn't work out that way, would it? It's really just an academic question, because to make a mandate like that, wouldn't you need a law? I don't think that the president could just mandate that, right? There'd need to be some sort of a law, and there's no way you'd get that through Congress right now. So my position is still, you cannot mandate a vaccine. I don't know if he wants to talk about it like in those terms anymore. So like, let me try and give you an out here, Ace. It's okay to say we can't mandate a vaccine, but the moral thing to do would be to get vaccinated. Those are two very different arguments, right? I didn't bring it up but you kind of did. You made a statement that really got to the heart of the thing that we were talking about. So like, the reason I'm asking you the questions that I am is because I don't think you understand the political ramifications of what you are saying. So first of all, mandating it would not pass constitutional muster. But second of all, it would be deeply unpopular, right? And the issue that I have, the larger point that I'm making is that the Biden administration and the CDC have done things that have undermined people's confidence in the coronavirus response, and that they are doing things right now or talking about doing things that would not just erode it, but really lead to, I think, a complete collapse. Just curious, what percentage of the U.S. is fully vaccinated? Isn't it less than 50%? It's like around 50%, yeah. People who are not vaccinated can also not work in the hospital system. Well, so here's where I guess, so now we have to talk about the next step here, right? Joe Biden has made it, you don't have to get vaccinated, but if you're not vaccinated, you have to be like daily tested or something like that to be a federal employee. Is that, I think that if they give you the alternative, which is you can get tested every day, I guess it's constitutional and everything. But again, it's like, okay, that kind of turns into, would they start trying to expand that? Right? Like, I think just making it a federal mandate already is going to be a little unpopular. Probably going to be a lot of drama on that. Like, that's the thing, is like, so mandating it for federal employees, drama, but it's probably the same people that agree and disagree with it, right? But these other steps that we're talking about here are things that are going to move the window. Like, he's going to say, we can force everybody to be vaccinated, and what it's going to do is it's going to turn public perception against it. That's the prediction I'm making. Right? And if they go further, so like it's masks and vaccine mandates, and what's the next step? A shutdown. Like, that's where it's going, right? There be a shutdown. Well, of course, they decide to expand the range again. I waited all that time, and then I get the adverse excursion anyways. The problem with a pandemic is you're not going to get everybody on board. Therefore, it is going to be a long time. Yeah. Well, I mean, if I was in charge, what I would do is I would say, we have a vaccine. Here's everything that we know about the vaccine. We encourage you to get it. We think that it would be good for everybody to get it. And that's it. Because I know that once you start trying to use coercion, that there's problems with that. Okay, well, there was a little bit of a mix open. The volume on the open there was very mixed. Given the... Well, I don't know. This is a hard call. So normally, it being a Wednesday and the day before having been a pretty bad day, I think that the probabilities would be in favor of longs. But because there's FOMC, I wouldn't necessarily be looking to be putting on a ton of money or anything, you know? So that open right there was definitely mixed, let's say. So that gets really interesting. And there was a little bit of a sell. I am wondering, is this going to be like the normal thing is that for, until like 8:30 or 9 they sell. problem is 50% will not solve your problems. Well, I don't know, Tommy. I'm not sure if I'm... So, like, here's the other problem is that we don't talk about the natural immunity. Why is it that they never talk about the natural immunity? I mean, like, it factors into the conversation here. There is natural immunity. I think there's some question or some evidence that suggests that natural immunity is not as good as vaccinated immunity, right? And that it might not last as long and so forth. So, like, but from my perspective, you're not going to get rid of it completely. At what point are you to a level where you're safe to open things back up again? And that the risk of more shutdowns is no longer there. That's the question I have. And I feel that, here in Utah, when you have 70-80% combined vaccinated and already infected, that you're safe. And I think that the United States has not had as much problem as other countries with new cases because a lot of people already had it. But Uzi says because it doesn't sell doses. Might be true. I can't prove that, but maybe true. Or it could just be that you want as many people to get vaccinated as possible, and that would possibly reduce the number of people that get vaccinated. Why was January 6th a super spreader and BLM protests, according to media, had data to say no spreading? Oh, yeah. Well, because the media was totally full of crap when they said that BLM protests weren't super spreader. There was a very clear increase in cases after that, and I think that there is evidence to suggest that the BLM protest was a super spreader too. I do think the messaging has been wrong. Like with everything, we turn vaccination into a punishment reward and an us versus them thing. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, here's the thing on that though, is that we have to separate between what happened under Trump and what happened under Biden, because it became an us versus them thing because of, under Donald Trump. And I'm not sure that I can blame that on Biden. So I can only blame the things that Biden has done. And I'm just looking at the things that Biden is doing now and saying, like, this isn't going to help. And that's what people are going to do, is the more and more things that Biden does, and they say, well, Biden did this, Biden did this, Biden did this, and it didn't help, right? You guys said that it was all over, and it wasn't. Why did we shut down if it didn't solve the pandemic? Right. And that is going to hurt Biden support. That's going to hurt Democrat support. And what kind of an impact does that have on the midterms? Because already it was looking like Democrats will have a tough time in the midterms, right? It could turn the midterms from it'd be bad for Democrats to just a complete disaster for them. Like the worst midterms in history for a party. If Joe Biden were to, in particular, so that would be my prediction. If Joe Biden
target filled
says more shutdowns, the midterms will be the worst midterms for a party in history. That's my prediction. But the other thing that I'm saying, or I believe, and this is like speculative, I'm speculator Seth, right? And this is where I get to speculate. I think because of that, there will not be a federal level recommendation on vaccinations. Or, sorry, there will not be a federal level recommendation on shutdowns because of that. Because it would be that bad for their party. because I'm seeing a lot of people suggest that they're doing it because they think it will be good for them in the midterms. And I don't think that squares away. I think that the person making that decision, that the thought is going to be on their mind that this is going to be bad for them politically. If we did have the vaccine under Trump and he was two-tiering society by vaccination status, Ace would be singing a different tune for sure. I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. Because like I said, Uzi, because you don't understand, I can't claim to completely understand Ace because I'm not him, but there's a lot of people in Utah like him that they grew up in the church and they are resentful of some of the things that they were taught when they were in the church, right? And so any issue where religion causes people to make a certain decision that they disagree with, they get triggered. I don't think that triggered is, I don't mean to say triggered like they become a baby about it, but I'm just saying like those are the sorts of issues that will get them talking, right? So I think that his feelings about that people should get vaccinated would probably outweigh his issues with Donald Trump being the one that mandates it. So in that situation, he would probably say you should get vaccinated, but he would probably be quieter about it. And I mean, I do the same thing, right? There's a lot of things that were going on during Trump that I had a fundamental disagreement with, but they weren't issues where it was like, this is just constitutionally just terrible thing, right? But like, for instance, when Donald Trump said that we should have a protest about the election, I was like, well, maybe there was election fraud and maybe there wasn't, but the time for this is past, and having a rally around the time that they're going to confirm the election results is like a bad idea, and I just was unhappy with him that he was going to do something. And what did I do? Because you were all there, you saw me. What did I do? I mean, like I kind of said something at first, but I kind of avoided it. It was kind of like you just kind of get quiet, because what are you going to do? Just piss off your allies? Like I don't know, like. And now in retrospect, do I wish that I had been more vocal about that this was a bad idea? Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, I also think that they're kind of exaggerating what happened on January 6th, but at the same time, I regret not being more adamant about this is a bad idea. Just like in January and February of 2020 when they encouraged people to ignore the panic and party for the Lunar New Year. Oh, man. Yeah, that one was... Whoosh. No, you're totally right. There was a lot of people that were Democrats that were concerned about the virus, and they just kind of, they're like, well, you probably shouldn't be doing that, but they didn't really say anything too strongly against it. Yeah. No, yeah. For the months leading up to the election, they were worried about Trump using the vaccine for his campaign, so they sued massive vaccine hesitancy. That's true. Actually, you know what's a really interesting subject that doesn't get discussed? And there's not much I can say about it because I don't know why, but apparently the most vaccine hesitant groups are minorities. What's with that? So they're all saying like it's the Republicans, but it's actually there's some Democrat groups that are some of the most hesitant. Well, this really turned into a strong sell, didn't it? So I never told you what the trade was that my robot made, but it did go short and it did get filled. So yay, it had a winner today, and we're not so deep in the hole now. On some level, I think that it got a little bit lucky, but it took the trade the way that it was supposed to, and it worked. So, I was at one point being like, well, it shouldn't be working this way, and is there something wrong with it? Like, did I change a setting? Or now I'm pretty confident that we're doing it right. And I think that the performance of it has just been that it's come into a drawdown, because it definitely has had drawdowns. Lower income people in general are hesitant? It's not the left who has made Dr. Fauci a scapegoat and a boogeyman. I think there are extremes on both sides of the political aisle. Yeah, well, like... That's just the thing. Like, I don't mean to... I got to be careful about criticizing Fauci, but that's happened on here before too, right? I can't even remember what it was that he said, but remember there was like this one headline we read out, and I was just like, screw you, Fauci. Like, here again, the issue is that if you just give the public the information, the hard data, okay, and you can make recommendations, okay, but that's not what Fauci did. Fauci tried to play a political role. He tried to, he changed what he said based on the impact that he thought it was going to have on people. And that is not the role that we have those people for. That's what the politician is for. Right? The scientist is supposed to say, this is the information that we have. And then the politician takes on that role. So the politician can come in and say, well, based on what that scientist just said, we think that everybody should get vaccinated. Right? And that would be a faithful thing. But especially on the masks issue, when it's an issue of some controversy, and there might be not 100% evidence pointing in one direction, you shouldn't be coming out and saying the things about masks that he said. It was a mistake. Like if you kids that don't watch this show, future Asher, maybe someday Asher will be watching through all of my videos because he's crazy or something and he's watching this one. Asher, if you ever become a public health official, stick to the science and the facts and don't make recommendations that aren't 100% backed by the facts. In that situation, you could come in and you say, well, some people believe that masks are effective because of this study and this study and this study. And some people believe that masks are not effective because of this study, and this study. And I have reason to believe that masks could help, but we don't have positive clinical proof that it makes a difference yet. Right? And if he had come out and said that, there wouldn't have been a problem. But they didn't do that. They get influenced by the politicians, and they come under this, I have an obligation to say this thing or that thing. And then under Fauci, it was like, or under Trump, it was like, well, I don't like what the politician is trying to pressure me to say. And it's just, ugh. And then he was wrong about this, some things, like they didn't want to shut down the travel. He was wrong about that. Fauci is categorically more of a public figure than he is a practicing scientist or doctor. Well, yes and no, but like the thing is that his role is to be the expert and bridge that gap. And it sounds like that for the majority of his career that he was quite good at that. But during this coronavirus, he just made like some super serious mistakes. I don't know, man. Like, you can't come out and say vaccinated people should still wear masks, and then in the next sentence say vaccinated people aren't catching the Delta variant. Like, there's just going to be too many people that are going to read that and are going to be like, what? Well, by the way, I've been yapping for so long and then this thing didn't turn out, so. This sell-off, what do you think? Do you think that's all there will be to it? How did double vax John Ram get COVID twice in 6 weeks? I don't know. Did he have to get hospitalized twice? I'd say that if he got the vaccine and he was hospitalized twice afterwards, then that would certainly be weird. But if he just caught it and he had symptoms, then that I think would be in line with what we'd expect, that like you'll still catch it, but it just won't be serious. No, just withdrawn from attorneys' positive tests. Oh man. Well, that makes me, I don't know. I feel like we've said everything that we can say about this right now, right? Unless you think that there is a point that would help us in our future trading and analysis of this thing that hasn't been said. But RJ Well bringing up the Olympics. Hold on. So what do you guys think of this? Is her name Simone? Or is it Simone? I don't know how you say it. This gymnast that pulled out of the team competition. And now this morning, what I read was that she's also pulled out of the individual competition. She withdrew from the individual competition too. Or the individual all around. Which means that maybe she still participates in the individual events, because after that, then they do who's the best pole vault, who's the best, all of that. But the all around, she's withdrawn from that one too. Which is just like the most bizarre story I've ever heard in Olympic history to me. Like, can you even imagine? Like, do you even know how much effort goes into that stuff, especially for gymnastics? We're talking about like you start from like the age of 3 and your parents spend thousands of dollars a year teaching you to become, so that you can potentially become an Olympian. So you spend your whole life doing this, like 10 years of your life, and you're like just a little kid. And then it comes up to the day and you withdraw? What? And everybody is taking this from the point of, well, like, it's a victory for mental health and she did the right thing and everything. And I can't see if she did the right thing or not. I just think it's a really bizarre story. How do you do it? There's got to be more to it than what we've heard. Like, maybe there was a fight or something really bad happened. I don't know, man. Like, this is just like, especially withdrawing from the individual competition. Or maybe she was never really actually wanted to do it. Because, like, if I was the parent and I had put all that effort into it and then they withdraw, I would be a little mad. Like, of course, I would do everything to try and help them and wouldn't say anything, but deep down, I would be really mad about it. RJ Whale says, steroid worries? I don't know about that. I was reading in, comments threads trying to figure out what was going on. And one of the things that people were saying was that there was like a fight between the athletes or something. Trey Trotter says she got golds from other years, I thought. I think so, yeah. I don't know. The whole thing is just a little that's unusual. It's kind of one of those things that I hate. I mean, like Win was kind of touching on this a little bit earlier, but the whole way that this sort of stuff goes down in media and social media and everything is just not healthy for us, right? Because she withdraws from the competition. There's clearly something about this that we don't know. And everybody is rushing out to say whether she was brave or a coward for doing it. It's like it seems like, from my perspective, it's like you don't want to make a position on something like that because you don't have all the facts, As he says, if she wanted to quit, she quit. I think celebrating that as heroic is kind of dumb. Like, people can be disappointed by her withdrawal without going hard on her. Well, yeah, that's true too. I mean, so like, let's just take it at face value. She, for no reason other than maybe she has depression or whatever, but wasn't prompted by any event that happened or anything like that. Okay. There was no extenuating circumstances. She just had a difficulty with her mental health, and she did not feel like she would be very good in competition, and she withdrew. Okay. So we take it at face value. Should that be celebrated as heroic? I'm not sure about that, but I think something in me wants to say no. Part of me wants to say this is kind of the same coddling people that we've been doing. Right? So I only say that not because I think that that's the situation, but because that's clearly what some people on the internet think is the situation, and that's the reaction that they have to it. It does kind of like bother me. I wander all over YouTube town, and you should see some of the conversations going on. What people believe once upon a time your crazy uncle yelling conspiracy theories was alone in his barn and not now. Well, but that's the thing, Win. Like, here's what I don't think people understand about this. Like, here's the thing that particularly the older liberal crowd doesn't understand about the internet. All right. If I want to know what the official line is on something, I go to CNN or, any of the major news outlets, and they're going to tell me what the deal is, Hold on. Why would I go onto my Facebook feed and read what my friend says about it to understand what the official facts are. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why do you read on the internet? Because on the internet, you can get information that you couldn't get otherwise. That is going to be theories that the authorities don't necessarily want you to know, or at least they're not going to highlight, right? It's going to be the conspiracy theories. It's the things like that. That's why you see it so much on the internet. It's because that's what people are going there for. Facebook was cited as a number one news source at one point last year. That's so weird. Yeah, all mainstream media has a customer bias to cater to, so they tend to lie by omission. They highlight certain news stories to maximize their profit. Yeah. So you shouldn't be surprised that when you're reading comments on Twitter or Facebook, that you're going to read things that are different from what the popular line is. And the majority of that information is probably going to be bullcrap. Yeah, you have to take that in context. Facebook was a source, but what pages were the source? Facebook being the number one source for news just means people look at mainstream media Facebook pages more than watch news or read papers. Well, but that's the thing is I don't think that it's actually links. I think that when they're talking about Facebook, that like a lot of people are getting their information from like images that people are posting. In particular, images are the thing that are the most popular. Well, the E-mini is behaving at the moment like maybe the downside is over. I'm a little bit weary about saying that because over the past 2 weeks, it'll do that and then it'll go lower. So yeah, there you go. Exactly. But Facebook is like reading the letters to the editors in a newspaper way back when. Everyone has an opinion, and you know what? Some letters offer value and some entertainment. Yeah, that's exactly it. I still read Facebook from time to time. By the way, what price did Ace take this short from? I never saw what price he said. I don't think he actually did. I still read Facebook, but I certainly don't use it the way that I did. Like to be honest with you, I've been sour on Facebook for a really, really long time. Like, I was sour on Facebook like 2013, around then, because once they moved things to the different feed. So the thing is the recommended feed is better, but what they did something else with the recommended feed that they don't tell you, and that is that they limit it. Like, it used to be you could have 1,000 friends and all 1,000 of them would see your post, and now they say only 100 of them see your post, and if you want more of your friends than that to see it, you have to do more. And once they did that, it kind of, for me, really kind of destroyed the whole point of doing it, right? Like the point of using Facebook was that I could go and get 1,000, 2,000 friends and get information about a party that we were going to have out to a wide number of people. You know, like the thing that was cool about Facebook was that it created local community events in a way that you never had before. And like there was a whole party scene that we had going that wouldn't exist without Facebook. And then they came along and they destroyed it so that they could make money from their ads, right? So I was already kind of sour on them because of that. And then the election came along. It's because it used to be I wouldn't talk politics on Facebook because I wanted to use it for promotion. So I didn't want to do anything that would like get rid of followers, right? But then the election came around and all of a sudden it was like really effective to use Facebook for politics. So I took advantage of it, kind of with the, kind of with the acknowledgement that it would probably destroy some of my feed. And it did. As he says, the secret of Gary Norton is now offering education on his new website. Is that the case? Wait, I don't see anything about that. Let me look. You're not just talking about his normal or his okay, his new website coming soon. Let me see. You got an email? Okay, yeah, I do have the email. Let's look. The techniques of local zones certified to trade now and close forward with they have been steadily lost over time and replace what you will learn matters. The local, but the world. Free preview and registration. No, well, I'll put my notify me when it's ready. All right, but it doesn't tell me anything about it. So here's the things. He made that course for Jigsaw. It's I don't own that course, but I have since gotten enough information from people. Now, of course, I don't think that the people that gave me this information were like violating their agreement or anything like that. But they, I got a good enough feel for what he was offering in there to be able to talk to you guys about it, basically. And I would say that the course does offer value. Okay. The question is it worth $1,000? And the problem is that kind of a lot of what he talks about are things that you could figure out on your own if you're trading long enough. Okay. But you might not have the same focus on it like him. And so where the value comes in at is like, what things should you focus on and not focus on? Learning those things faster, that sort of a thing. So to that point, is the value of like what you are going to make from it worth the $1,000? And I think it's like really questionable. And it kind of turns into well, only if you have the money to burn and you're really super interested in that subject. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there were a lot of people that were disappointed by the course. There were a lot of people that felt like that there wasn't that much content, and that for $1,000 that it should have more content. And just from reading that website and looking at how Gary has responded to it and things like that, I kind of got the impression that he wasn't very happy with how that all went, and that he felt like he could do better. And so he turned around and he made education for it. Good for him. But the thing that I would still be cautious about is like education is just education. It's not going to guarantee you success. And with Gary Norton's methods in particular and what I understand about them, there is like really heavy competition for it. Like he was doing it in instruments that were like didn't have a lot of liquidity and didn't have a lot of people trading them because, it was too difficult to try and pull that edge out on, say, the 10-year treasury. Makes sense? So that's another thing that you got to keep in mind. But he is talking about more of a market making scalping strategy where you're making the spread. So, and you're taking advantage of structural inefficiencies. And that is a good thing. And there should be more discussion about that. Oh, this $1,000 course is floating around there. Someone shared it in Discord. Yeah. Well, and I've been shown that too before, but or at least I knew that was floating around. But the thing you'll remember with that is like they continued to add stuff and videos and Q&As and things like that. So it's a different thing. I'm gonna be interested to see if it's still going to be $1,000, but it looks like he's doing it all on his own this time. So that could be good. And it sounds like he's taking more of a continuing approach to it. So that's kind of a good thing. I don't know. I think if it's $1,000 that I might save up for a few months and do it because I think that he's really valuable. He has really valuable information. And I don't know if I would make my money back from it, but to get his course, you go to Jigsaw. Jigsaw Trading had it on their website, basically. But this one, let me pull it back up again. This was like his own full website. It's curious to me though that he's just teasing it and not. Here's his preview. Have a video, probably a video talking, the mindset. Oh, well, he has a time set for it a month from now. So I guess we're just going to come back in a month and see what happens. But I might have the money to do that by then. Kind of depends on some things, but what do you? Oh yeah, we haven't really talked about the FOMC very much, have we? We've spent so much time talking about the vaccine mandate thing that came out yesterday, and the mask mandate really. So the market is not expecting this FOMC to be significant. I think from the perspective of the Federal Reserve that, they don't want to rock the boat. So I think that their statement is going to make an acknowledgement of weakening conditions and supply side pressures. And that could be, the market could read something into that and move off of that. So like, this is where I'm like, I think that there's good reason to think that there's not going to be a significant long-term consequences from today's FOMC meeting, but that there probably will be some trade opportunities today off of it. So, and then of course there's the press conference, and that could be super interesting, especially since we've got like this whole thing about will lockdowns come back to the US is certainly on some participants' minds. I'm still of the position that I don't think that they'll do it, but the cynics are definitely betting on it. And there are people out there that would like them. That might make a good title, Gary Norton's courses with. I don't want to opine about it yet. I would like more information. Maybe hear from some people that do it. Maybe possibly do it myself. Like if it's in a month, hold on. What do we got here? I will do it. Oh yeah, it did already come through. But then this other one didn't come through, so I'll probably have. So I would probably have to wait another month or two if it's $1,000, unless I can like split it out into monthly payments or something, which maybe we do. Oh, where do I do this in? I don't know where to go. Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, I would need a little bit more, but it'd be close. Because as I hope it's not super overpriced like that ebook that really should have cost $50. Like, this is the thing is, Kyle, is like, how do you really value something like that? Like, you have to understand that when you're buying Gary's course, that you're really paying for the rarity of the information and not for the amount of content that you get, right? At the same time, I think that if you are going to spend $1,000, that you should have more content than that. And it sounds like he realized that, and that's why he's putting more in there. Well, from what I know about it, I'm going to say that it's more than just basic order flow teachings. But so here's the thing, is that I don't think that people would necessarily understand the significance of some of the things that he would be saying in there. Right? So like one of the things is that a lot of people will come in and read order flow and they'll turn order flow into technical analysis. And what Gary does is very much not technical analysis. You know? But I think that in terms of like, where else are you going to get that kind of content? And I think that everything from what I understand in there is good information in there. From that perspective, I think that you can justify it being $1,000. And if he makes a better course, that's much more like a school, I guess you could say, and it's still $1,000, then hey, I'm game. I'm a little worried though that it's going to be more than $1,000 though. But In comparison, like the no BS day trading course is like $80, and it's about from what I've heard, it's the same amount of content, right? Overpriced. But you understand, all education content is overpriced, really. Like that's the model. You don't get enough people to pay for it. It's the same with indicators, right? Like in reality, if I was really wanted to make selling my indicators my livelihood, maybe I should. The model that I have right now, where you guys can get it for $10 a month, would not be the best way to do it, right? The best way to do it would be to look at how many orders I'm getting and adjust the price based off of that. And probably if I was offering my indicators for $1,000, I would probably get more customers, and I would certainly make more money, right? And then I could say, well, if I get 5 customers a month, then it needs to be $1,000, and then I can live off of it, right? Like that's kind of part of how they price this sort of thing. And I would only do that if I was planning on working on that indicator suite full time, right? You have to think in terms of an investment. If you spend $1,000, you learn to make $1,000 a day. Is it worth it? Is that worth it? Well, I'm not sure that you can take it like that per se, but the issue with that is that no trading course can guarantee that you're going to make money. Like here with Gary Norton, like the issue is that it's gonna put you in with a mindset that I think is a much better place to start from in terms of trying to trade as a retail trader, but it's still going to be hard, and you're still going to have to find your own edges in there somehow if you're going to make money, because what he's talking about doing is really competitive. You know, like he's talking about stuff where your position on the queue matters. So this is something where if the robots didn't exist, I could probably make a good amount of money trading, from what I understand about it, right? But I can't compete with the robots. So you're gonna need to do some extra things on top of that to compete with the robots. But at the same time, his course doesn't necessarily trying to take that. He's just trying to say, here's how you used to market make when you were a human, and humans were market makers, and it's dying out, and you want to learn it. So to some extent, I think there's an acknowledgement that it's going to be really hard for you to make money trading that way. But possible, but difficult. You can get it for much cheaper. I would say show me a place where you get that same information. I mean, there's lots of people that will explain what order flow is to you and what you're looking at on the DOM. And no BS day trading is one place where you kind of get one reading about the games that people play. But the Gary Norton what style of trading is not the no BS trading either. I know a guy here in Brazil that trades just like him. If you say so. But the big thing from what I know about it is that he's literally only using current prices to make his trades. I think that's the big insight that you really get. So he's using current prices and correlated instruments, right? And I don't see anybody else in the retail trading space talking about that. And I think that's a big deal. Like, every piece of analysis that I've looked at says to me that even when you're considering volume and order flow and things like that, that analysis of a single price time series isn't very effective at predicting price direction. I don't know. I guess my robot has made some good trades, but and courses need to be cheaper. Yeah, well, wish. Educators will always be able to finger point if they're selling a subjective method. Yeah. Well, see, there you go. Tommy says, sit down and look your down speed in speed record a few days and watch and look at it at high speed. So that's the kind of the thing that I'm talking about, though, is like we take the DOM and order flow and we turn it into technical analysis. Because what you're saying is if you watch the DOM for long enough, you will somehow magically get a feeling for how prices move that will allow you to become profitable. And to some degree, I kind of want to believe that, because I certainly feel like there are situations where I just know what is going to happen, and I'm not even sure I can explain how or why it does what it does, but and then there's other times where what I think is going to happen is just I'm absolutely dead wrong, and it's hard for me to sort out why it switches between the two of them. So, like, are there patterns of behavior in the market that we could take advantage of if I just become experienced enough? I suppose it's possible, but I have a difficult time proving it. And I spend a lot of time doing research and reading everything that I can get my hands on to try and find conclusive proof that really actually works. And I just haven't been able to find it. And I'm not talking about chart patterns. Like, chart patterns is another thing. But I'm just saying, can you look at the order flow and the depth of market and do that? But really, what are you doing? You're applying technical analysis to order flow. It depends on your definition of technical analysis, but really, what are we doing? We're trying to use market data and changes in market data to make decisions, and you're taking into account past data. And what Kyle does what Gary teaches, is not that. What he teaches is that none of that stuff works, and that you can only make probable decisions based on current information. So, and then, the value in it is the process for thinking and everything to be able to be effective at doing that, right? That's what I know about it. So it's different. And I feel like, if I was focused on that sort of a thing from the very beginning, would things be different? Maybe. I don't know. I think I would still have a hard time. Another thing is how he evaluates the now so much in his book, when really the dynamics of value that he preaches can be used in higher time frame flows, such as showed you yesterday with his 30-minute footprint setup. That was market making. No, I don't think at all, Kyle. So I think that if Gary Norton watched yesterday's stream and saw my explanation there, that he would say that's applying technical analysis to order flow, and that it may or may not work. And realize when I'm talking about that I myself am saying, that is a pattern that held really strongly through the post-pandemic time period, and I'm not so sure if it applies anymore. And in fact, if we go back, let's go back and look at that, because how did that sort out? Let's go back to yesterday. Yeah. So yesterday, I was saying, we start getting 10,000, we'll get some sort of a bounce. Well, you did get a bounce back to 4,400. But then later in the day, we went lower. And if the whole thing was like when the plunge protection team comes in and you start seeing 10Ks or 20Ks, really, if you get 20K, then it's like a really strong one. But nah, it didn't really actually work, I don't think. I mean, is that bounce sufficient enough? Maybe. There's also quite a bit of excursion against you, though. Like, I don't think that he would be into that. Now, I also don't think that he would be into what I say about execution impact, but I think that he would understand it. I don't know if he would know the formulas or not. Probably I think that he might. The thing is like, if he knows that stuff, why didn't he include that in his course? Because I know that that's not in there. And I can only assume that it's not a significant part of his trading. So, yeah. But I think that he would be interested in it because that is something that I can prove empirically. What are you talking about here? Have you thought of trying to see how the market behaves when you were right versus when you were wrong, and see if you can use your indicators to identify any patterns? No. So, there's this whole thing about I forget how to explain it. There's kind of a way that practitioners sort out that kind of analysis. But I don't remember how they did it or if it applies to what we're talking about. But Gus says the one thing I never get is, if the information you have is so good, why sell it? Okay, so I'm going to try and defend him here on this, okay? Hold on. There was the oil inventory is coming through here. Do I want another one at 9.5? No, I've already taken it too many times. I should not increase my risk. Well, it's the same thing with Futures Trader 71. Like, you understand that, like, he's applying market profile and his own kind of setups from it, but although he can show you stats about how likely a certain price is to be touched based on certain information and everything else like that, in terms of turning it into a profitable strategy, he can't prove that. So we're still kind of left in its technical analysis. Does it actually work land? Okay, so I'm going to defend Gary here on this one. And that is, okay, number one, Gary has started his own hedge fund, which makes way more money than what he's talking about doing for market making. Okay. So to him, the knowledge is not really useful anymore. But number two is that last time I heard him talk about trading, he was saying that he was doing it on like the Australian dollar or something, some instrument that like nobody trades, where it was really thin. And so he was able to work the queue, right? So from that perspective, he is giving you something that I do believe market making algorithms use, and that there is competition for. So it's not just like this magical formula that anybody comes in and does it and you can have success with it. Like what he's talking about doing is like way hard, like the hardest way of trading, basically. So from his perspective, he's not selling it because he thinks that giving it to you, you're all going to make a ton of money from doing it, and he wants to help you out. He's giving it to you guys because he's concerned that that knowledge level amongst traders is dying out, that they used to have it at firms and stuff when there was human market makers, and now they don't have it. And he's concerned about when you just have the robots in charge, which is something that I very much sympathize with and very much believe myself. And so he's really putting it out there to maintain the knowledge. And he's not necessarily saying that you're going to make money from it, I don't think. Or at least that's the way that I look at it. So. But then you want to be liable for answering questions? Well, sure, because then at that point it's he wants to be the one that passes the knowledge on. Listen, if I wanted to download the book, I would know how to do it, but I want to be respectful of Gary's wishes and Jigsaw's wishes and everything else like that. So that's why I only found out enough information to answer questions about it. But I'm not going to condone charging people or, stealing content. Because, like the whole thing that I'm saying is like, okay, if you're this guy, if you're like me, if you were Seth, but maybe with $1,000 lying around that you didn't know what to do with, then I would say buy the course, right? But if you're this guy that you're just getting into trading and you don't know anything, you're not even sure if trading is really for you, and you're just trying to find an edge, and maybe this course is going to be the thing that finally makes me profitable and yada, then it's not for you, right? Then honestly, education is never going to give you what you're looking for, but you get what I'm saying. I guess I have a mindset that we can never truly know when and why the market moves. People say stuff, but in the end, they don't really know. So that's a good example. Well, yeah. So there are some situations where I think you can say with a good degree of confidence why a particular move happened. There are very, very rare circumstances where you can really see the order flow. Now, and it'd be really hard to predict that it's going to happen, but once it does happen, you can see why it worked out that way. And there are situations where news comes through, and because of the proximity and the reaction and which assets react and which assets don't react, you can have a really high degree of confidence that news was why the market moved. And in order for me to prove it, to be able to publish it in a scientific journal, I would have to go and interview every person that took a trade during that time. But I think that for our purposes, that we could say with a great degree of certainty that was why the move happened. But to the point, those are like rare circumstances. Those don't happen all the time. Those don't even happen every day, right? And the vast majority of market action is irrational and seemingly random. Yeah, it's impossible. I don't say it's impossible to know the actual why. I wouldn't put it that way. I would say it's difficult to prove empirically. That's why I said you can know with a pretty high degree of certainty in certain situations, even though you can't prove it empirically. Yeah, there you go. The fact that Boeing had its plane crash and the FAA address it on a Saturday is an easy indicator that Boeing was going to be really bad on Monday, and it did. Yeah, exactly. Right. So can I come in here and say, well, the reason Boeing is down is because there was a plane crash? Yes, I can. Can I prove that in a scholarly study? Well, the most that I can do is I can say, here's the plane crash and here's the market moves that we had in the correlations. And was that what actually caused it? Maybe. Pretty good chance that it was. But there's this other side about this though, right? Which is that like with the way that Ace trades, he's basically trying to take advantage. Like if you'd say, why does it work? Because there's momentum in instruments, right? Like there's a lot of study on that, and if it really was the case, it would be something that we should be able to empirically prove that you make money from that, right? But I can't, even knowing how his strategy works, I can't prove that, even though it does appear from everything that I know that he's making money from it, you know? Trade Trader says, but if you limit your trades to those circumstances, those could theoretically be higher probability trades. Yes, 100%. If I was really disciplined enough and really effective enough at knowing when those instances were happening and acting on them quickly, then that is all I would do. 100%. 100%. Because those are high probability trades. This is how you get around. This is the only way that I know of to truly get around the probabilities. Because you get this whole thing that like if you take a equal risk reward, then you can have like a 45% chance of winning. And then if you want your winners to be larger than your losers, then that's going to reduce your win rate. But when you're talking about news and you have something that really truly has a possibility, a good chance of predicting what the future action is going to be, and you can take it quickly because of the limits of the order book, then you have a situation where your winners can be 100 times your losers, and you can win like 70-80% of the time if you're that disciplined. But it's like you're talking about something where it's like you're going to sit around all week, and maybe it could happen at any moment, but you don't know when it's going to happen. And maybe it only happens once a week, and then you have to actually trade that correctly. That is really, really hard to do, right? Have you ever thought of running a competition for some? So it's something that comes up from time to time, and I'm actually against it. The idea. I think that there's issues with the competition, but two, I think it introduces a lot of issues that aren't necessarily they don't necessarily help people. There's tons of plays on news must be ready to execute in the right domain. Yeah. I mean, if you're trading equities at that point, then yeah. There's all those issues with trading equities, like wash trades and everything, but there are a lot of folks who make a lot of money trading the news, yeah. Like here's the thing. There's a couple of different strategies where I can either empirically prove that the strategy works, or I can point to market information that proves there's an inefficiency there, and that at the very least it's worth attempting to make a strategy to take advantage of it, right? There's a number of those things that we can point to, but most of those things are things that if I worked for a firm, we could be going for, but as a retail trader, you might not be competitive, right? Like with the way that volatility works, you have to have a really big bankroll, and so it's not really a realistic trade for most retail traders, right? News is the only one that I really know of that I'm really confident on that is an inefficiency that retail traders can take advantage of. So then we are forced to venture out on our own and to try and find them. And one place that's a great place to start looking is momentum, right? It's just that, like, if I backtest Ace's setup, I can't find, it doesn't seem to have, like, the entry itself doesn't seem to be effective. It seems like when I backtest it, the stats do not show that it's worth trading. Let's put it that way. But there's a part of his, or at least the way his strategy, I mean, he's changed it. That's the other thing. It's like he was trading a certain way, and he's changed some things about it too, which tells you something, right? But it seems like, because he's shown me profitable statements and stuff, how is he making the money? It's in how he lets them run. And I can't duplicate that. I don't know how to duplicate that. So we're kind of just left with this thing where it's like, it's a really good place to investigate, but I can't prove that it works. He might just be really lucky. I don't know. Because he's filtering based on the day. You can't. I don't know, man. There, yeah, exactly. Trade. We're back to money management being the trade as the core, and the entry is more hit or miss. Yeah, that, like, basically we're saying that you could use his whatever are the things that he's using to manage the trade. You could take a random trade and supposedly use those methods and be profitable, with the entry being completely random. You say he's not lucky, but I can't prove that. I'm sorry, Ace. Look, if I have a profitable time period, right? Like, just after the pandemic, I had a really profitable time period. It was really crazy and mind-boggling to me how good I was doing. It was like I was making good trades, hand over fist, for several months in a row, with like only 1 or 2 losing days through that whole time period, right? And how do you look at that kind of performance and say it was just luck? But you know what? It didn't last. So was it just luck, or was it just those market conditions? Like, how can you say? You really can't. It's not until I can look at like 5 years worth of data, right? And I can really see like everything about it. Like if I could look at every one of Ace's trades for the last 4 years, then I could conclusively say like there's edge in what he's doing or not. And then at that point, it wouldn't be, the question would just be, what is it that he's doing that provides an edge, and what is it that he's doing that doesn't actually matter? Because that's the other thing, is that it might just be one tiny little thing that he's doing that's providing the edge, and he doesn't even realize that that's the thing that makes the whole system. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the whole thing I'm always trying to get across when I talk to you guys about this, is that he gives an entry, and so we're all thinking, okay, so there's something special about that price, that if I take that price, I'm more likely to get, you know, if I buy at that location, I'm more likely to make money than lose money in over a long period of time. And I'm saying that's not necessarily the case. That I think that I want to believe that it's not luck and that there's something that he's doing. Okay. But I can't empirically prove it, but I want to believe that it's true. And I'm going to say to you that I do believe that it's true, but I don't know where it comes from. Maybe. Well, the point we all forget, I'm the person who announces the trades. I think if everyone did that, we would all be impressed with others. I don't know. Like, are you guys, like, you can see me do almost every click, right? It's not impressive all the time. Like, when I'm doing well, it's impressive, but you know, this summer it hasn't been impressive, has it? I've had some really awful periods this summer, haven't I? And this is why I don't trade in this summer. Well, that's the thing, Trade Trotter. If support resistance is even 50-50, the fact that you cut your losers at 5% and let your winners run to 60% will end up saying it works. But if you let your winners run to a certain amount and your losers, you know, you cut them off at a certain amount, that's going to change the win percentage of your system. Not that I care, but I wouldn't follow Seth. No, you shouldn't follow me in trades. I don't want people to, like, if I have something that's working, like, you notice I don't tell you what the robot is doing, right? I don't ever see or hear Seth trades either. Oh, really? Yeah. But here, the thing where I'm like, I think I have a technical system that has some efficacy that is at least worth trying. I don't want you guys to know what it's doing, because I'm afraid that if you guys could see it on stream, that it would screw the trades up. But most TA people honestly don't keep track of their stats. That's true. So what if a guy followed you with his 2 micros? Well, so if a guy followed with me with 2 micros, it wouldn't matter, no. But if somebody came in with a 50 lot, it would screw it up. And when we're talking about a stream with 30 people, because there's only 18 right now, but could be. My point is, I have no way of knowing he doesn't announce them. No, you'd have to be watching the screen for sure. Yeah. Like to that point, even with my discretionary trades, that of which I make no claims about their performance, whether they are effective or not, and I will for sure say that, well, I can be a really great trader sometimes. I can be a really awful trader sometimes too. I have intentionally run the stream in a way that anybody trying to shadow all of my trades would have a very difficult time doing it, and so that nobody would ever bother trying. That's intentional. I will just up in and click and don't even tell you guys anything. And then after it's done and it's already a good amount in profit, and then I will say something. Like, basically, I wait for it to go further than the impact of the thing that I saw would suggest it would go before I start talking about it. I actually don't care because Seth doesn't report big winnings. So yeah, it was really funny. Like, the thing is I was always like nervous about it. Like, oh, but I'm going to lose, and then people are going to think things about you. And like, I see it. I was seeing the other day, people were saying stuff about Matt that I thought were really unfair to Matt trades. And, you know, you're worried about people saying things like that, but in the end, like, people really don't actually care. People only care in as much as it's like, oh, are they selling a course? You know, which isn't really what you should be doing anyways, right? Which is fine. I agree that the spirit of the room isn't you calling trades. No, yeah, it's not. But the whole thing here, Ace, is I want to prove that this is the thing. So, like, Renaissance Technologies, they have these trades, and we don't know how they work, but they have long-term profitability. And what is it that we can learn about what is effective in trading and what is not effective in trading if we knew what Renaissance Technology does? And so when I come across somebody that is making money, I always have to go in with like, well, they might just be lucky or whatever, even if they've been doing it for years, right? But the question is then, okay, what can we learn about it that will prove to us what is effective in trading and what is not effective in trading? And when I look at Ace, it's like there's something there that would be valuable to the world. Maybe it needs to be kept a secret, but I would really like to figure it out. Wow, how have you decided they are profitable? That's right. You only showed me like 1 month of statements, so I don't know, like, over a 4-year period how profitable you are. That's a fair thing too. I'm kind of making an assumption that you continue to be profitable every month. Gurus that don't show a live platform are not worth following. Yeah. Well, and here's the thing is, and I guess we got to shut things down now because it's getting that time. But I think that this channel has a lot of value without it being about my trading, right? And that's been something that kind of took me a long time to realize, and it's something that I don't own enough and that I really should, but we get into analysis, and even if I'm wrong, you're learning information and you're picking up things about what traders are looking at and are paying attention to that is really, really valuable. And it's information that most retail traders are not. It's information in a perspective that most retail traders aren't getting. And that is worth a lot. It's worth a lot. You know, and how do I show to people the value in that is really hard. But we'll figure it out eventually. I don't know what you guys are talking about calling people out, but point being though that Ace may have an edge in how he manages trades that we should seek to understand, or that he should seek to understand, because I'm not sure if he really understands why. he acts like, and when I talk to him, he acts like, well, I did this thing, and then I do it, and it makes money. And I'm kind of like, oh, it's not. I know that it's not that simple. Oh, whoops, I never put my took profile order on this. I have to say, I've played this range at 09.5 really well. Can't wait to show my spouse Seth in person. Wait, did I try to impersonate him today? Is the CME floor open now? So live action, my understanding is that they got rid of all of the floors except for the Euro-dollar options pit. So I don't know. It's kind of sad to think about. Oh yeah. Well, that's the way that you explained it to me. Is I was like, so how did you figure this out or whatever? And he's just like, oh, I just played with a bunch of what indicators I had until I found something that worked. I was like, okay, that didn't make me feel too confident in what I was about to do, And then I went and tried to write it to prove if it worked. And I was like, no, that's not. There's something else here. What was I gonna say? Is interesting to watch. I like the thing is I analyze people too much, right? I'm just not as empathetic as a person as I used to be. I'm so analytical about it. And I kind of feel weird talking about Ace in like an analytical way like that. But like, especially when he said like that people should be forced to be like, I was really surprised that he said that. He never really got into like, do you understand how extreme of an opinion that is? And like, are you maybe just saying it to just say something, that gets attention? But like, it was kind of like, oh, okay, okay. What does that tell me about the way he thinks is kind of interesting that I would, because I wouldn't have thought that he would say that. Sure, whichever. Well, that's why I was saying like, do you really? That's because I was trying to check like, are you just arguing for the sake of arguing, or like, how serious about this are you? Because it really did take me by surprise. Oh my. Hey, you know what? If they give me 11.5, that would be lovely. I don't think they will though. Like the E-minis recovered pretty well here. They're probably gonna meander around here until the FOMC, right? Anyways, I gotta get going. It is now past time. I still haven't named. So we'll just say FOMC day. FOMC day morning. And it's the 28th, and we will be back for the FOMC statement and press conference. So I'll see you guys later today. Yeah, I think that people should get vaccinated in most cases. I do agree with that, and I think that I would say that it's like the right thing to do to get vaccinated. I just don't think I can force people to do it. That's all. Okay. Stay profitable, friends.